Hey friends and enemies, this is Alfred the editor. I just wanted to really quick let you know that there's a little audio glitch every once in a while in this next segment. I tried to cut around it, but some of it's unavoidable. So you'll just hear kind of a staticky buzz every once in a while. So just try and ignore it. Consider it the devil that got cut being a little pissy about not being in the show. So enjoy the segment on X-Men.
So we need to go to X-Men 97.
Yes.
So it's like, once again, for 7 episodes. I have to say I don't love the series.
Okay.
There are a lot of things I like about it. I would say right now I would give the series probably a B.
I'm very divided on this series, honestly. It is a 10 episode series, so we still have 3 more episodes to drop. I go back and forth on it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of elements of this that I do really like. You know, the authenticity of going back to the costumes and everything is really interesting. Being able to include some of those characters that weren't around in 94, so you can actually talk about some of these characters and do the Goblin Queen, which that was a twist I wasn't expecting.
That was crazy.
And anytime you have that kind of shit happen, you're just like, damn, son. Damn, man. Wow. All right. But for everything like that, you have a few things here and there that are kind of silly and ridiculous.
Dude, this might be the worst Wolverine.
I don't mind this Wolverine.
I hate the voice acting. And
it's the same voice actor.
I know it is, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just because if you think about it, he doesn't really do shit in this first 7 episodes. He doesn't do anything. He's barely in some of the episodes, and then some of the fights, it's like, did he even do anything?
See, I like this approach to Wolverine because Wolverine isn't one of my favorite characters. So I'd rather spend time with Rogue and with Gambit.
Oh, no, Rogue is awesome.
Yeah, I will say the Storm stuff is a little drawn out.
Yeah, I could give a shit about it.
And every time Magneto shows up, I can't take him seriously with his evening wear gloves.
No, when I saw Magneto, all I could think about is like, I wonder if Al thinks that's Magneto from Roadhouse because he's got the hair. He's got the hair from Roadhouse.
He's got the big hair, and like I gotta look up Magneto's costume in the 90s.
Yeah, because
I gotta see if this is something that I just don't remember or I missed, and but like the costume is so stupid. It's so stupid. It's just ridiculous to look at these giant gloves and and
the big M on his chest, like he's an M&M or something.
And the whole thing is just very silly looking. Yeah, okay, I'm looking at the canon version of this. He does have the big M, but the gloves come up to his elbows, not up to his shoulders.
Yeah. No, it's
the
a
evening
little...
wear gloves are just so, like the latex evening wear, it makes him look like the most powerful germaphobe on the planet. And I'm just like, what's going on with this, dude? We're going to get into some of the Rogue and Magneto stuff later, but that stuff is also like, that's an interesting thing that had developed since the X-Men. So if we're talking about and lauding it for doing things that happened after the show was on the air, this is one of those things.
Yeah.
But I don't think it fits here.
No.
And I think it kind of pointedly doesn't, and you know that. I also can't help but feel like every time so the animation is pretty good.
It is. It kind of though had... There's some points that it's too retro and it kind of looks, and then there's points where it's not. It's kind of
like
weird.
For me, there were a few too many moments where it looked like a Adult Swim cartoon.
Yes,
with very heavy black lines and just like the style didn't change. It reminded me a lot of Archer and Frisky Dingo and like that animation house. And it's not bad, but it was distracting.
Yeah,
it was definitely distracting to be like, it doesn't look bad. I also don't know that I can say it looks as good as the original. Because, like, the original was drawn that way for style purposes. But one of the things I really like about that series is that they didn't reuse a lot of animation. And when they did change the animation later on in the series because they ran out of money, the animation got far worse. So this is still better than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. There's just some kind of uncanny thing about the animation every once in a while where you're just like, this just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
They also are changing some of the rules a little bit. As much as I fucking love Gambit charging Wolverine's claws, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I have a lot, especially as the series goes on. I just end up having more questions, honestly, about that choice. As cool as it is, and it is cool.
It's really damn cool.
I gotta ask you if this is worth it narratively, if you're not kind of shooting off your toes because you want the shoe to fit.
I was not a massive fan of the show for the first 3 episodes. It took the 4th episode with the Motendo, just because I loved when they went into the video game and it looked like the X-Men.
Yeah.
That was fucking
That was
awesome.
really good. It looked
And
like
I did like, even though they underutilized them, I did like Sunspot. Sunspot was always one of my favorites.
Sunspot is really interesting the way that they use him. Again, this is another issue for me.
It gives that like dynamic of the family.
Yeah.
But you don't see the powers that much, which I love Sunspot's abilities.
He has great powers and great abilities. But like also, again, this is just me getting nitpicky. But Sunspot's whole thing is that he doesn't want to be seen with the X-Men because he doesn't want his parents in Brazil to find out that he's a mutant. The X-Men have an entire news crew come to the house and interview Sunspot and Jubilee. And I'm just left saying, like, wasn't your whole thing like you wanted to lay as low as possible? And then later on, when we meet his mom's like, this is great. We can make sure that no one finds out you're a mutant. Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure
he was
on
the mansion.
He was in the mansion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was there with the X-Men, practically wearing a costume. So I just end up having some questions.
Yeah. No, it was...
But a lot of the narratives kind of fall into that gap.
Yes.
Where you're just kind of like, you're supposed to take it on spec. And then when things change or kind of grow, there's not a linearity to it. So you're not like, I get what's happening. You're just kind of left being like, okay. And in some cases, that's fine. Like when we meet the Goblin Queen.
Yes.
That was a big one where I was like, I just have so many questions. But we're not going to stop and ask any of them. So I guess we're just going to move on. And then you name drop Madeline Pryor at the end. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I don't know how, but that was enough to make it over the finish line.
Yeah, it was
for that.
Cool. Yeah,
that was fine.
Cool.
But, there are just a lot of other moments where I'm just like, I don't know.
I mean, I'll be honest. The thing that kind of brought everything together for me as far as loving this show, I would say it's between him and Colossus and who's my favorite X-Men of all time. I love how they did Nightcrawler.
Oh my god, and he's here.
He was so fucking perfect. Like, visually, his personality was so perfect.
And they did the priest thing.
Yes!
Which they did because he was a priest in the original show. Yes. And he only shows up in one episode in the original... No, 2 episodes. Excuse me. 2 episodes in the original show. But that was one of... Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men.
Dude, he was so good.
And he's so good here.
So fucking good.
And I was just so thrilled when he showed up. And then he's in the credits. And I'm like, fuck yeah! He made the opener, guys. He's here. He's here. Kurt's here, guys. It's all going to be fine.
So good.
I just love having Nightcrawler around because you don't always get good adaptations of Nightcrawler. Sometimes they go too far in one direction. Sometimes they go too far in another direction. And here, I think that this is a really fun interpretation of the character.
Yeah.
He is a little bit more fun and fancy-free than he was in the original show, where he is just like a very stoic priest in the original cartoon. And here he's like cracking wise and has swords, and like none of this stuff was in the original.
Yeah.
I was so thrilled to see him here. I got really excited when I saw Colossus at one point, and then I realized it was Morph, and I was like, God damn it.
Yep.
Fuck. Shit. Which, like, I like that Morph is part of the crew.
Yes.
And that because Morph dies in, like, the first episode, and then he's brought back, and he has on and off adventures with them here and there, but he's not really a part of the day-to-day activities of the X-Men. So having him here as a character is a breath of fresh air. And
I love that he's like besties with Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's like the two of them are...
I love that scene where he's trying to get Wolverine to chill out and laugh after everything happens on Genosha. And he comes up with a 6-pack of beer. Wolverine's like, fuck you. And then he turns into Sabretooth and throws the beer at him. And it's like, all right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, this is it. So I do like it. The stuff with Storm is a lot. It's just an ongoing thing.
Yeah, it's such a weird storyline.
I like this version of Storm a lot.
Yes.
And they brought most of the original actors back. I think the only one that's different, you have Cyclops and I think Gambit are the two big ones that are different than the original cast. Though that said, even though Rogue is still played by the same woman, Lenore Zan, she does sound different to me. Just, 20 years will do that to a voice. I like episode 2 a lot. I like the stuff with the Executioner and the Friends of Humanity, bringing back Friends of Humanity as kind of this inroad. The whole thing with her, spoiler alert, losing her powers and then having to get them back. I was just like, God damn it.
It just went on too long.
Not only does it go on too long, you know what I come to superhero stuff for? Fucking superheroes. You know what I don't come here for?
Love stories?
Superheroes having to learn to be human so that they can then be superheroes again. Yeah. I'm not here for it,
especially
dude.
She was getting her powers back.
So
why drag it out over 3 episodes?
When she goes, at one point after she loses her power, she goes up to her room and she holds her costume, right?
Yes.
And there's the big burn mark on her costume from where she got shot. The burn mark, they didn't track to anything. So it just hangs in the air while the costume moves under it. And it's kind of that for the whole plot.
Awesome.
Of like, I'm going to ignore it because I know ultimately it will mean nothing.
That's awesome,
and
though.
Also,
I never noticed that.
I kind of feel like Storm met Forge in the original. I could be wrong about that, but Forge was leading X Factor. I think he was leading X Factor. And they fought the X-Men. And I could have sworn Storm was part of that fight. So now I'm confused. But again, I'm getting nitpicky. The stuff with the adversary and all that, it just didn't do anything for me. Was this a psychic battle? Was this a spiritual battle? Was all this actually happening and it's magic? We didn't get an answer on any of that. And it was just very confusing because I kept on thinking like, oh, this is taking place in her mind. But then it doesn't. Yeah. I kept on waiting for them to...
materializes into an actual...
And actually, like, she falls through the roof of the building.
And I do love how when Storm gets her powers back... The whole thing is she's racing against the clock to save Forge. And then she gets her powers, she goes flying on a trip. I'm like, dude, you need to go back and save his ass.
Got business to attend to.
He came with you because he's so near death, he couldn't wait for you to get back.
He didn't want to die alone, which was a hardcore line of like, I'm coming with you. No, you're not. I'm going to go on my own. And he's like, no, I don't want to die alone. Like, if something happens, I don't want to die alone, so I'm coming with you, even if it kills me. And I did like that they name dropped that Forge is the guy that made the collars. Yes. Because in the original, they kind of went back and forth on that. I think that they implied both that Forge was a part of the design, but also that it was designed by somebody in Scotland, which they reference here again. Yep. But they never say who in Scotland. So I don't know if that is Moira McTaggart or someone else. Could be. Who knows? But I do like this. I like the evolution, if you will, not to put too fine a point on it, of some of the things here where Cyclops uses his I-beams to move around. Yeah, that was cool.
When he did that,
that was actually cool.
AKA Deadpool superhero landing. When Paul jumps out of the plane, he just used it to slow down. That was fucking awesome.
I was just like, this is pretty rad.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And
Jean Grey being able to lift entire buildings. This is pretty good, guys. This is pretty good. The whole thing with Mr. Sinister is interesting. I'm intrigued by this whole overarching plot that they've developed. Yeah. I can appreciate doing Mojo. I do kind of feel like Mojo and the Storm storyline are hand in hand for me. Of kind of like these auxiliary storylines that I don't really care about. I'm supposed to. And Charles Xavier with the Shi'ar is right in that same camp of like, I know I'm supposed to care.
That was weird. I didn't give a fuck.
I know I'm supposed to care.
I mean, you got to see The Guardian, which was awesome.
Well, like, this is the thing, is like, it was really funny because it gave me that superhero moment that I love, that I go to superhero stuff for. Where we show up and it's the Shi'ar, and I'm like, oh, okay, the Shi'ar, we're doing the Shi'ar. That makes sense. We were going to get to the Shi'ar eventually. And they're fighting someone. I'm like, who are you fighting? The Kree? Yeah, they're fighting Ronan. Kree. Yeah, he's got, Ronan's ass, and he has the ultimate weapon, and he's showing why it should have been a difference maker against the Marvels in the Marvels. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I love Professor X taking the Shi'ar to school. I thought that was really fun. But there were just a lot of moments in there where I was like, tick, guys, what are we doing here? Let's go. What's happening here? Especially given that the episode right before it was so huge. And it was one of those episodes that leaves you being like, because it's the one where everything on Genosha happens.
Oh, yes.
And so we spend the entire episode on Genosha.
Remember it.
And you know something bad's going to happen. And then Cable shows up and he's like, I'm too late. I'm sorry, Mom. All this shit happens. And again, we're going to get back to this because there were some conflicting things here. But that was such a powerful episode, and it ends, and you're just like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Was that a foresight thing? Did that really happen?
And the endings irritated me because during the episode, they had some hard transitions that felt like the ending of the episode. So when the episode finally ended, I was like, oh, God damn it. Because I thought it was another hard transition. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, no, I did get that a few times of like, because the episodes are all about 10 minutes longer than the original series was.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like that a lot. We complain all the time about Disney ignoring the laws of time and how stories are supposed to be told, and they're giving this one room to breathe, and I can deeply appreciate that because it's an animated feature, and that means even more to me that you're doing it that way. I do have to say, without going into any of the gory details of the attack on Genosha, I have a lot of questions vis-a-vis who survived.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions. Like, did you set up Madeline Pryor just to kill her? Is she gone? Did we just do this whole thing just for you to kill her 3 episodes later?
I can't imagine she's dead.
Right, that's what I came back to. But also, y'all can't ignore mutant abilities, okay? To which I say, I don't mind that you have Sebastian Shaw on Genosha running the council. That's, we can go back and forth on whether the Hellfire Club should be allowed to associate with these people, if they would trust them, for any number of reasons, not the least of which being that Jean Grey is one of the members, and she might not love hanging out with the Hellfire Club or the Inner Circle if you're Fox Saturday morning. Sebastian Shaw's whole thing is that he can absorb any kind of energy. He doesn't give a 2 fucks about a bomb falling on him.
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys that dies. Like, we see him passed out dead next to Emma Frost, and Emma Frost is like, I've never turned into my diamond form before. That's weird. And I'm like, that you didn't need to make that line. You don't use your diamond form because you find that your telepathy is more useful as a power than your diamond form is, and you can't use your telepathy while you're in your diamond form. Hence, no one knowing a lot about the diamond form because you don't use it. We didn't need you to be like, oh, her powers evolved. No.
Well, that's them just dumbing it down for.
But this is what I'm saying is like, don't do that.
It's unnecessary.
Don't do that.
If you're watching this cartoon, you're not just a run-of-the-mill Marvel fan.
No I'm sure there's a bunch of casuals that are watching this.
But nowhere near something like an MCU movie.
But like, come on, give us something. This is supposed to be ours. This is like this is the thing that's the adults that were kids then who are eager to see this continued.
Yeah.
This is not for the kids that were born 3 days ago. Like, don't do this, man. Don't give me this.
And
one
especially when you go all in. Like, I loved when Rogue, no pun intended, went rogue.
Yeah.
And fucking was like, Thunderbolt's like, we built this to keep the Hulk, and she fucking breaks in. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I love that they address Cap.
Yes.
Which was like, it's one of those things where, again, canonically, I ended up having a lot of questions because conceptually, we see Cap in an episode with Wolverine back during World War II. They have a secret op mission that they go on together, and there's a joke about Wolverine not having his claws and all these things, because at that point, Wolverine's claws were still man-made. They weren't bone claws. He didn't have those. That wasn't part of the canon yet. In that same universe, Spider-Man meets this version of the X-Men. We see Spider-Man go back and forth with them. There's a whole thing with them, right? In that version of Spider-Man, he meets Captain America, who is stuck in a time portal, basically, fighting the Red Skull. They're just trapped in between universes, and that's kind of where that Captain America is. And so Cap shows up here, I was just like, huh.
Yeah, that threw me off a little bit.
I don't mind that you're here, but I do have questions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I probably looked too far into this, but also, honestly, I kind of feel like this is our thing, and if any of you writers were taking it seriously, you would look into all this shit.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I love seeing Cap, and I love that there was this moment. First off, I love 2 things about this. One, we get an uncanny Avengers call out, which is fucking awesome, where you have Rogue and Cap talking to each other and discussing discourse and how best to handle situations. And then I love the moment where she gives him back his shield, and he's like, I can't condone what you're doing. And she's like, oh, well, if you're not going to help, here's your fucking Frisbee.
Throws it into the mountains. Yeah, that was
Go
awesome.
Get your Frisbee.
And you don't really see him after that. He's just kind of like,
fuck.
Which I did look up. Josh Keaton voiced
My
Cap
boy.
America. He's from Spider-Man. He
My
played Peter
boy,
Parker in the Spectacular
Josh Keaton,
Spider-Man.
he is my favorite
Yes,
Spider-Man.
he is. And when I saw that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, because he also plays Cap in the What If series.
Oh, okay.
And so I when I saw him here, I was like, good for you,
Nice.
dude. My boy getting work. So overall, I would say I like this show. I like the cuts that they're going after. I think that is authentic to the original cartoon in a lot of ways, a lot of really deep cut things. I do end up having a lot of questions about having Magneto be such a prominent character. I have a lot of questions regarding his relationship with Rogue, not in terms of the physicality of it. I get the physicality of it, but you can't say, we just pretended like it didn't happen in your explanation and have that be it. That's not... I didn't take it for Eternals, and I'm not going to take it here.
I agree.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you just don't do that storyline then.
And, like, where is Colossus?
Where is Colossus?
Some of these X-Men
Why did they do magic? They brought out magic.
Yeah.
They had magic fight the Goblin Queen via Morph, but no Colossus.
Yeah.
Why? I
don't understand.
I have so many questions now.
And, like...
Because Ilana was a sick little girl when we saw her last, and it's apparently only been about 2 years, and now she's full on magic?
And you can't even put him on Genosha? And say, oh, well, he's on there helping or something. No.
We had Dazzler on Genosha. We had fucking...
Well, Nightcrawler was Genosha, where we first see him.
Nightcrawler, Dust,
I think...
Glob. Like, there were so many deep cuts.
All the
Pixie,
Morlocks.
All the Morlocks.
Morlocks were there. And then, wasn't Angel... I can't remember.
Angel shows up as Morph. Morph turns into Angel.
That's right. He wasn't even. But once again, why isn't he?
Why isn't he here? Because
I don't get.
Because like again, Angel had a weird. Angel's whole storyline in that series was kind of messed up from the beginning, because that was one of the moves that they made midstream that broke the canon. Basically, they introduced Angel in the first season, and nobody knows who he is.
Even though he was a founding member.
But as we go through, we find out that he's a founding member, and you just end up with this situation like, so, but nobody...
Yeah.
Everybody acts like there was this whole big deal when we found Bobby Drake. He was doing shit, and we tried to bring him back on the team, and everybody made a big fucking deal about that. Nobody is going to make a big deal about Angel and everything that he's going through, because it seems like it's a lot worse than what Bobby's going through.
Yeah, no, by a ton worse.
That has always been messy.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen Angel on, again, I agree. I think Genosha is just a place where you can put a bunch of really interesting Easter eggs. That's what they did in Wolverine and the X-Men. When they have Genosha, there's just a bunch of interesting Easter eggs just dotted throughout that whole thing. Gambit also integral in the downfall of Genosha there.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, he plays a role in both cases. But no, I look at this and I'm just, I like it. It comes back to things like the animation being weird and spending so long with the Shi'ar and still mispronouncing Macron. It's not Mcron. Why would it be Mcron? In what world? In what world? You know it's Deken, but you think it's Mcron? You know it's Deken, but... Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. But I am curious to see where this is going. The reveal that Bastion is the lead villain, the Sentinel turned human turned Sentinel from the future is the lead villain, and all the stuff with Cable. The fact that they are doing Cable's storyline
which fucking
for
awesome.
real.
But that's the thing, though, is they just really brought him in last episode. He's got only 3 episodes. How are they going to tell his whole story as the finale?
They've already kind of told his story in the original cartoon.
Yeah, but like this, I know this is, and it's a continuation of that. But it's also still a lot of people that didn't see that original show. You've seen a couple of it seems like they're kind of reintroducing certain characters and whatnot, like even Storm with her powers. Because it was very reminiscent to me of when River Song, when Rory and Amy Pond, River Song's like, oh, I'm your daughter.
Yeah.
But they went into a lot after that where here Cable's like, I'm your son. And you only have a few episodes left to even deal with that.
But to be fair, they are also covering a lot of stuff in each episode.
Which I wish they would have a longer season. Like it seems like they're rushing through it.
I don't know that they're rushing through it, but they have a lot to cover, and they are definitely moving through it at a pace.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that I do remember about the original, too, was that it was very much we have a problem, let's try this. It worked. So kind of the end of the first episode where they do the big shot where Gambit charges Wolverine's claws, and then he cuts off Master Mold's head, and then that's the end of the fight. That was extremely of the original cartoon of just like, oh, I thought there was going to be more, because you had the cool moment where Beast is like controlling one of the Sentinels. Nah, Wolverine's going to cut off the head and we're going to go home.
See, but like even the Mr. Sinister character, who is like the Loki of this, where you have the big bad controlling him and telling him what to do, but you think he's the big bad. Mm-hmm. He's maybe in 10 total minutes of all these episodes combined.
I mean, but again, that goes back to it being from the original. We spent a lot of time with Mr. Sinister, and honestly, it would kind of fall into that Emma Frost camp of like, but we know this. Like, why are we reiterating all this shit? We know this. Like, one of the things that I really like about this is that they don't walk you through the plot. Okay, so if you do the original, you know a lot of things. So when Rogue is going back over what happened between her and Magneto and kind of filling gaps of that storyline, we see her when she was part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Straight out of that episode of the X-Men. Perfect. When she meets Magneto, it's implied by their clothes and the surroundings that they're in the Savage Land. That is never spoken.
No.
But we do know from the original that Magneto had a base in the Savage Land for an unsaid amount of time where he was coming up with his own creations, kind of Mr. Sinister style, before Mr. Sinister kicked him out of the Savage Land.
I think the problem I'm having is I don't have time to go back and rewatch the original series, and it's been 20 years since I saw the original series.
Yeah.
So to me, as a fan, it's like...
See, that's what I like about it, is that it's so authentic to the original series. Makes it more of a fan letter to be like, yeah, we're doing this whole fucking thing, and we're not going to hold your hand or explain who these characters are.
I do appreciate that.
You kind of just have to strap in and take it as it comes, and we're not going to go into why Banshee and Moira McTaggart and any of this other nonsense, because that is all in the show. If you want to go back and find out, that's all there.
Yeah, I gotta find time to go rewatch that.
But like, I mean, like, I get it though. I get that. That is a very real complaint that people.
20
can
years
have.
is a long time.
It's a long time, and it's a lot of canon. But I think that at the very least, it's not detrimental to being able to watch.
No,
the
I
show.
Still enjoyed it.
Exactly.
I still enjoyed it. Absolutely.
You can still watch it and know what's going on. But if you do know all the backstory stuff, when Sunspot brings up Asteroid M, you're like, yeah, what about Asteroid M?
Yeah.
But what about when that happened? Because that fucking happened, and we're just going to ignore that? That's just not going to be a thing that we're going to talk about ever again? What the fuck is this shit? I really like this show. I really want it to stay as good as it is. I think this is probably the best Marvel animated feature we've seen in a while as far as TV goes.
Quite a long time.
I do still feel like the animation is not quite, I don't want to say consistent, but there's just something about it that looks a little off every once in a while. I don't know if it's different houses or having to rush through stuff or what. But I do that this show is a very good continuation, and I like that it's more adult, that they can say hell now, so you can have the Hellfire Club instead of calling it the Inner Circle. And you have all the drama with the X-Men and with everything happening with Gambit and Rogue. And it's a more adult interpretation of a really good show that at its core was a show about tolerance. Yeah. And that is still what this show is about. That whole thing that Magneto has, where he's like, you can look at me as a monster, and that's fine, and I understand that. But what I'm trying to achieve is just the chance for my people to live on this planet, and you will not give that to us. And you don't even... And Beast has the same thing. Later on, after what happens on Show, when he's talking to the reporter, and he's like, the fuck are we doing here, Tracy?
That was a great scene. I wish I had brought that up. That scene with him, where he's talking to her and he loses his shit. It's like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you're the most grounded of the X-Men, and you fucking are losing it. You're like, what the fuck's the point?
What are we
Magneto was
doing?
right.
What are we fucking doing?
Yeah.
What's the fucking point of any of this? You keep on saying one thing and then allowing this shit to happen. And we try so hard, and we do it all the time, and you still just won't acknowledge the problem.
Yeah.
And I love that tone is still in the show and has the same weight and meaning that it had in the original. Because that's really what the original was about. It was about tolerance and the idea of we all live on this planet together. We should be able to share it. We should not be working to all ends to kill each other. We should be trying to save it. We have not only the capability, we have incredible gifts that would make it so we can save the planet if we would just fucking stop fighting with each other.
That's kind of what Scott said after his interview. When he gets up and says, you'd all be fucking dead if it wasn't for us.
You don't get it, and you don't want to get it.
And in the reality, it's true too. In the reality, you have these beings with these powers that could easily kill every human on the planet. They just decide not to.
Oh, we see it in the Ultimate Comics. Magneto at one point changes the rotation of the Earth via changing its polarity.
Yep.
And it creates a giant wave that knocks out all of New York City and kills over half of the superheroes that were established in the canon. And it forever changes, like in game, it forever changes the tone of that entire universe. The one I always go back to is that J. Jonah Jameson, after that moment, thinks Spider-Man is a genuine hero. That's how big a deal it is.
Speaking of that, quick side note, I give movie J. Jonah Jameson,
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons credit. Supposedly, he fought hard for when he was in the
He didn't want to be bald.
He wanted the flat top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I love you because you knew how important that was to the character. Yes.
You get it. You know.
Because that is still, that original J. Jonah Jameson is one of the best comic to kind of live action transition. He was so perfect in every way.
That moment where he is lamenting that Spider-Man is gone.
Yes.
And he's talking to Robbie and he's like, man, he's really going up. And I don't want to say it, but like maybe Spider-Man was good because like he was doing this and he was doing this and he is a thief in the costume and it's like that's Jay.
It was so perfect.
That's big triple.
So I gotta
J.
give a lot of shout out to J.K. Simmons.
Right? Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, so X-Men 97 is the next episode comes out.
That is Wednesday.
Yeah, okay. So the next episode's first. We'll have to talk about that next week.
Yeah.
And next week we are gonna have to push. We were going to, if we had time, talk about Late Night with the Devil, which we have both watched. We will bring that up next week.
I'm gonna rewatch it now.
Yeah,
a
me
little
as well.
A little preview of coming attractions. I'm gonna rewatch that shit.
Yeah, because it's you're in for a good review.
There is.
And for those who have not seen it, look it up. You can get it on
actually
demand
relatively
now.
cheap.
It's like $14.99 or something like that.
$14.99 on most retailers. It's an IFC film.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about it is that I have never seen almost 2 minutes of studio credits at the beginning of a movie before, where I was just sitting there like, how is it still going?
So you realize how hard it was to get this movie made.
How many people it took to get this movie, even to a point of distribution. It was just so funny.
So good.
I've never had that moment where I actually paused the movie to check how long we had been spending on just studio credits. But that has nothing to do with the movie itself. The movie itself is fucking great.
Yes.
And we're just going to leave it at that.
Yes, we're going to leave it at that because, we have a good track record now with these horror movies that no one talked about because the last one was The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was fucking amazing.
Also starring
and now we're going to...
David Dashmalian.
Thank you so much. So, look forward to that next week. We will also talk about the latest episode of X-Men 97, and we'll have to decide.
We'll have some.
There's got to be something else. There's a million
There's
things.
other crumbs in the pantry.
There's a ton of things. And then, I have to actually start watching the Avatar show because that is my next. I have caught up on everything, so that I can binge.
I have my review of the Avatar show so far was I finished episode 1. I was like, that's really fun. I like this. I think this is going really well. And then I watched episode 2. I was like, shit.
Great. I'm Night Shyamalan returns.
Fuck.
All right, folks. That has been episode 137. It is in the books. We hope you enjoyed everything you listened to. Once again, you can look us up on YouTube. You can look us up at nerdpodgen.com. It has links to everything pretty much. Talk about our awesome sound and logo.
Our logo was made by Kortney Howell. Our theme song was made by Brendan Williams and James Connelly.
And they're both fantastic.
And they're all amazing
And we can't
people.
thank them enough for what they do.
They're all incredible artists that continue to propagate further art. You can find me at jutsomstudios.work if you want to just go to my place. I like to plug it because that's our entire family website. So
there you go.
There's a lot of good Jutsum stuff at jutsomstudio.work.
And when you go to nerdpodgenerations.com, under Al's picture, there's top one of the 3 links is to Jutsum Studios.
Yes.
And then, once again, nerdpodgen.com. Please go on that website. If you send us a message, it goes right to an email address that both of us have access to.
Yep.
So we'll see exactly what you're talking about. So please let us know what you think because we want to keep building this son of a bitch.
We like building this thing out like a dad's building out his condo.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, we hope you have a great rest of your week,
have
everyone.
a great week, friends and enemies.